The courtyard was quiet. The students had gone inside, leaving only the soft sounds of night. The moon cast long shadows through the trees, like secrets hiding in the darkness. Mattheo paused just inside the archway, scanning the shadows. His heart hammered in his chest, throat tight. Here goes nothing. Then he saw her. She sat against a tree, arms wrapped around her knees. The moonlight outlined her profile, cheeks, dark hair falling loose around her shoulders. She looked smaller than he remembered somehow, more vulnerable. But there was a steel in her eyes now, a resilience he knew was because of him. Mattheo's breath caught. Seeing her again was like a blow to the gut. She heard the crunch of leaves underfoot and looked up. Slowly. Silence fell like snow. Mattheo swallowed. Every clever word, every smooth line he'd ever used evaporating into thin air. He just stood there, exposed, real, and whispered, "Hey." She didn't move, didn't speak, just watched him silently, those eyes he knew so well, sharp, guarded. He took a step forward, then another. One more, another, until he was standing just a few feet away. Her gaze never left his face, intense, unwavering, almost calculating, like she was trying to see through him, to see into him. Mattheo swallowed again, hands in his pockets. He wanted to say something, anything, but it was like his brain had forgotten how words worked, how to form sentences. "Come on, dumbass. Say something." A breeze caught a loose strand of her hair, toying with it, a whisper against her cheek. He had the sudden urge to reach out, tuck it behind her ear, but he kept his hands in his pockets. Mattheo was suddenly hyper-aware of everything. The soft breeze brushing his skin, the sound of crickets in the grass, the smell of earth and leaves, but mostly her. He couldn't look away from her face, memorizing her eyes, her cheeks, the shape of her lips. She was still so damn beautiful it hurt. He took another step forward, closing half the gap between them. It was so quiet now, he could hear her breathing, slow, steady. His own breath hitched as he finally found his voice, words spilling out before he could stop them. "I missed you." Her eyes widened a fraction, surprise flashing across her face. But she composed herself quickly, jaw tightening. The silence that lay between them was thick enough to taste. He wanted to say more, so much more. "I'm sorry, I was stupid, I was angry, I still love you. Please, just listen to me." He wanted to fall to his knees, grab her by the shoulders, make her look at him, make her believe him. But he knew he couldn't force this, so he just stood there, hoping. She didn't say a word, just watched him, eyes searching his face. The moonlight cast a pale glow across her skin, making her look almost unreal. Mattheo swallowed again. He wanted to reach out so badly, but he wasn't sure if he was allowed anymore, or if he even deserved to touch her. Can I sit?" He motioned awkwardly to the space next to her at the base of the tree. "I guess." She shrugs. That was the closest thing to permission he'd get, so he nodded silently and carefully lowered himself to the ground, keeping a few inches between them. He didn't want to crowd or want to press his luck. He just sat there, hands in his pockets, his heart hammering in his chest. "Say something, idiot." The silence stretched again. Thick, uncomfortable. Mattheo shifted, fingers playing with a loose string at the hem of his shirt. He wanted to fill the quiet with words, anything to break the tension. But his brain didn't seem to be functioning, his thoughts scattered like leaves in the wind. He could feel her eyes on him, sharp and assessing. It almost made him squirm. Just when he thought he might go insane, she spoke, her voice cutting through the silence like a knife. "You're twitchy." Mattheo blinked, surprised by the sudden sound of her voice. It was so jarring it took him a second to process what she'd said. Then he looked down, realizing his fingers were still nervously fiddling with his shirt. "Oh," he said awkwardly. "Yeah, I guess I am." She watched him fiddle with the string, her expression unreadable. "You only do that when you're nervous," she noted. He tensed, her words hitting him like a blow. She knew him so well, even after all this time. Of course she knew. He forced a casual laugh, trying to play it off. "Just a habit, I guess." "Why are you here, Mattheo?" she says straight to the point. He looked down, suddenly unable to meet her eyes. The weight of everything pressed down on him all at once, the guilt, the regret, the longing. "Because His voice cracked. He cleared his throat. "I couldn't stop thinking about you, a beat. And because I was wrong." Her expression didn't waver, but her eyes flickered. She was listening, really listening. He took a deep breath and continued. "I was an idiot," he said, voice low. "I was angry, selfish. I hurt you. And I'm so damn sorry." His fingers twisted the string of his shirt, an unconscious gesture, an itch he couldn't scratch. I know sorry doesn't even come close to cutting it, he said, gaze dropping to the ground. But I need you to know that it wasn't just some stupid, careless fling. You weren't a means to an end or a distraction. He hesitated, the next words sticking in his throat. When I was with you, it was real. You're real. And I screwed it up. And when you weren't with me, I ceased to exist. Her voice a tad sarcastic. Mattheo flinched, his breath catching at the bite in her voice. He deserved that, more than she knew. No, he said quietly, shaking his head. Not even close. I became someone I didn't like, someone you wouldn't have liked. He met her eyes again, raw and honest. You're not my heir, Scarlet. You never had to be. His voice dropped, soft, aching. I just forgot how to breathe without you. The words hung there echoing softly in the still night air. It was true, painfully so. He felt like he'd been drowning since he left her. But she just watched him, still so damn guarded, her eyes sharp, her face unreadable. He couldn't tell what she was thinking, what she was feeling. The silence was killing him. Mattheo swallowed, then said it low, shaky. I don't want to fix this with words. I want to earn you back, one day at a time. He turned his hand over in the grass beside him, a silent offering. Only if you let me. Don't, she says. He froze. Don't what? He asked, voice barely of a whisper. Don't promise me things you can't keep. Her voice was quiet now, no sarcasm, no bite, just tired. You don't get to break me twice. Mattheo's heart sank. She thought he was bullshitting her. Scarlet, he said, a desperate plea that was barely more than a breath. You don't understand. I swear. I understand perfectly, she interrupted, her tone flat. Better than you think, apparently. Her words cut like knives. She wasn't even going to give him a chance. Anger flared, a knee-jerk reaction he'd always struggled with, but he pushed it back down. Yelling would only make it worse. I will never believe that you actually loved me. You don't do that to someone you love. Something you know would destroy them. It makes me sick to my stomach. It makes my skin crawl that you were able to sleep with someone else without me even crossing your mind. Just forgot about me. Forgot you had a girlfriend waiting for you. While you touched her the way you used to touch me, I will never believe I was actually important to you. Because you showed me I wasn't. Mattheo's heart clenched. She'd said it. Every painful truth he'd been too cowardly to admit to himself. He'd hurt her more deeply than he even knew. For once he didn't have an easy comeback, no clever quip to brush it aside. He just sat there, hands twisted in the grass, listening to the sound of his own uneven breathing. The silence was deafening, heavy with guilt and regret and all the unsaid words between them. Mattheo wanted to say something, anything, but he couldn't find the words. How do you apologize for breaking someone in ways you can't even see? Then, can I ask you something? Mattheo looked up. He'd been expecting more anger, more accusations. Hell, even a slap would be better than the quiet resignation in her voice. Yeah, he said quietly. Anything. She didn't look at him. Instead, her gaze was fixed on the horizon where the moon kissed the treetops. Did you ever think about me? She asked softly. Even once while you were with her? The question hit him like a curse to the chest. His breath stopped, because he had. Every damn second. He'd thought about her laugh, her smile, her lips. He'd thought about the way her hand felt in his, the softness of her hair, the smell of her perfume. She was the first thing that came to his mind when he woke up, the last thing he thought about before he fell asleep. Hell, he thought about her so goddamn much. There were days he could still feel her ghost on his skin, long after she was gone. Every part of him had ached for her, and she'd thought he'd forgot, that her memory meant nothing. He wanted to scream at her, shake her, grab her shoulders and say, I didn't forget, I wanted you, I still do, more than anything on this goddamn planet. But he didn't do any of those things. Instead, he just said softly, every damn minute of every damn day. While you were with her, Scarlet asked quietly. A muscle worked in Mattheo's jaw as his guilt spiked. God, the tone of her voice. Yes, he said. While I was with her. The words tasted like ash in his mouth. But you still did it, she said softly. He closed his eyes, the familiar burn of shame crawling up his throat. Yes. He exhaled the word like a confession. She wanted honesty. He'd give her that, even if it killed him. Why? Her voice quiet. He opened his eyes, hollow, raw. Because I was scared. The words dropped like stones into the silence. She looked at him then, really looked, eyes narrowing slightly, as if trying to pull the truth from his bones. Scared, she repeated, voice quiet but sharp. Of what? Mattheo swallowed hard. This was it. The heart of it all. The thing he hadn't even admitted to himself until now. Not good enough, he whispered. I felt like you were outgrowing me. His voice cracked under the weight of it all, the confession ripping itself free after weeks of silence and lies. You're brilliant, beautiful beyond reason, so damn real. And me? He let out a bitter laugh that wasn't really a laugh at all. I'm just Mattheo. I flit around, make jokes, break rules. People don't love guys like me for long. He turned to her, then eyes glistening in the moonlight, not with tears he'd let fall, but close. So when you got closer with relatives this summer, started talking about visiting them after graduation. His breath hitched slightly. I thought you were going to leave anyway. A beat passed between them, heavy and fragile as glass. Then I made sure I left first, and finally, in a broken whisper. And that's why I didn't come back for you, because somewhere in my stupid head, his fingers curled into fists against his knees. I figured losing you on my terms would hurt less than watching you choose someone else. Another pause. Then, it didn't work. He exhaled shakily. Still hurts more than anything ever has. You could have just left me. Instead, you disrespected me. Disrespected. The word hit like a slap. He winced. It was true. He knew it. I know, he said quietly, eyes on the grass. And I've hated myself every goddamn day since. I should have walked away. I should have told you the truth. That I was scared, that I felt like I was losing you. But instead, I broke it before it could break me. He swallowed hard, voice cracking. You deserved better than that. So much better. He took a shaky breath, finally daring to look at her again. The hurt on her face made his chest ache. I don't expect forgiveness. Hell, I don't even deserve it. He ran a hand through his hair, voice shaking slightly. But, for what it's worth, his throat tightened, the words sticking. He forced them out anyway. I'm sorry. I'm so goddamn sorry. I'm not asking you for another chance either. His gaze dropped to the ground again, his heart hammering in his chest. At least, not yet. He'd never been more honest in his life, and it was terrifying. But I'm not giving up. He met her eyes again, determined. The stubborn bastard he'd always been rising to the surface. One day, I'm gonna win you back. He saw something flare in her eyes. Surprise, uncertainty. But then she masked it with a scoff, crossing her arms over her knees. You're cocky, you know that? He almost laughed. It was such a her thing to say. A flicker of hope blossomed in his chest. I prefer the word confident, he replied, a ghost of a smile tugging at his lips. Cocky, confident, it's all the same. She rolled her eyes. He chuckled, unable to help it. God, he had missed her stubborn ass. He leaned his head back against the tree, his heart feeling lighter. Whatever you want to call it, he said, a hint of the familiar cocky smirk returning. One way or another, I'm gonna get you back. Scarlet takes a deep breath. Even if I wanted to forgive you, don't think I could ever get past it. Stuff like that festers in relationships. It's like poison. I've never understood how some people come back from it. How do you put all your trust in someone, let them squander it, and then trust them again? I truly don't know. A pang went through him at her words, sharp but deserved. He wanted to argue, to say that it was different with them, that she was it for him. But she was right. Trust went both ways, and he'd shattered hers beyond measure. I don't know either, he admitted quietly, his chest tight. Guess I'll just have to convince you that I'm worth the risk. How? She asked bluntly. Her eyes were sharp again, guarded. Mattheo swallowed, her blunt question echoing in his mind. How was he going to convince her? Where the hell did he even start? He started, then stopped. There were too many things he wanted to say, too many things he'd bottled up for weeks. Can I tell you something? Completely honest. No games, no bullshit. He inhaled, steeling himself. This was it. Time to lay it all out. Over these past few weeks, every damn day I thought about you. Her expression didn't change, but he thought he saw her hands tighten slightly. He kept going, his voice gaining strength. I thought about your laugh, how it was like freaking music, your smile, the way your hair would get messy when you slept, the way you'd bite your lip when you were nervous. I thought about how warm your skin felt against mine, how you always smelled like that damn vanilla perfume, how your eyes looked when the light hit them just right. Mattheo had never spoken so sincerely in his life, every word raw and honest. He leaned towards her instinctively. I thought about our talks, the way we'd just talk about nothing and everything. How you'd roll your eyes when I told a stupid joke. Your stubbornness when you'd argue with me over something small. And I thought about your trust, he said, voice breaking slightly. That beautiful, quiet faith you had in me, the way you looked at me, like I was someone worth loving. He paused, the weight of it pressing down on his chest. I broke that, and I have to live with that every day. But I also had time to think about me, he continued, his voice firming, about how this whole time I was scared shitless. Because you, he pointed a finger at her, you're the only one who's ever seen me. I mean, all of me. The good, the bad, everything in between. The parts I like, the parts I hate. All the messy, complicated bullshit I'd never share with anyone else. His breath came out uneven, hands clenched in his lap. I didn't just lose a girlfriend when I lost you. I lost me. Because you're the only one who ever helped me see what kind of man I could be. He swallowed hard. So yeah, I'm not asking for trust right now. Not yet. But his eyes lifted to meet hers, fierce and unwavering. I'm going to prove that man exists. I'm going to be someone worth loving. He leaned forward a little more. Someone you deserve. Mattheo's heart was in his throat, everything inside him twisting into tight, anxious knots. But his eyes never wavered from hers, his voice strong. And if there's any possibility of us in the future, I'm gonna show you every goddamn day. Silence fell between them, heavy and pregnant. Mattheo's heart was racing. His hands were shaking, his throat dry, but he held her gaze, determined, all his cards on the table. For what felt like forever, she just looked at him, her expression still guarded, but softer now. Like the harshness in her eyes was thawing. Just a bit. Then, voice almost too soft to hear. One question. Mattheo's heart jumped when she finally spoke. One question. Okay. He could do one question. Anything, he said softly. Ask me anything. Why? She asked it quietly, but it hit him like a freight train. Why did he do it? Why did he hurt her after everything they had? Why did he leave when she was right there, when everything he'd ever wanted, everything he still wanted, was within reach? He swallowed hard, his mind racing. He'd thought about that question a million times. I told you. I was scared. Mattheo took a shaky breath, the familiar burn of guilt threatening to choke him. But he pushed it down, forcing himself to continue. So goddamn scared, you have no idea, he said hoarsely, his voice breaking. I looked at us, at the future we could have, and all I could think was, I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not... He shook his head, struggling to find the right words. I'm not who you deserve. I couldn't shake that thought, no matter how hard I tried. And instead of talking to you, instead of being honest, I let the fear win. I convinced myself I was sparing you by letting you go. Instead, His voice was thick, his breath uneven. He swallowed hard, looking down at his trembling hands. Instead, I broke us, and it's the biggest goddamn mistake I've ever made. How many times did you sleep with her? Be honest, she says. The question was like a knife to the gut. Mattheo winced, the air leaving his lungs in a pained exhale. He'd been dreading this question, knowing the brutal truth would hurt her even more. But he'd promised honesty, so he forced himself to look her in the eyes, his voice quiet but steady. 3 times. She processes for a moment, then leaves without another word. Mattheo didn't move, just sat there, staring at the space where she'd been. The cold night air wrapped around him like a shroud. He knew that answer would sting. Knew it probably shattered whatever fragile hope he'd just built. But he also knew better than to chase her. Not this time. This wasn't about him running after her like some desperate romantic gesture. It was about proving he wasn't going anywhere, even if it took forever. He'd wait. Because Scarlett Hawthorne? She was worth every second of the ache. He sat there until the moon moved across the sky, until his fingers went numb and his back ached from leaning against the tree. Then, finally, he stood, brushing off his robes. He didn't look for her, didn't call out, just whispered into the dark, voice raw but firm, I meant what I said. And with that, he walked away, but not far, never far from where she could find him, if she ever chose to look.